Ever since I picked up the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, I've experimented with plenty of accessories designed for this powerful compact camera, but after more than a year of real-world use, most of them barely leave the cupboard, and there are only a select few that I find myself reaching for regularly. Of course, we all use our gear differently, so what works for me might not be a must-have for you. But I'll be keeping the bigger picture in mind, highlighting accessories that I genuinely think could be useful to Pocket 3 owners, or at the very least to specific types of users, and pointing out the ones that I believe most people can confidently pass on. To make things more interesting, I'll be ranking each accessory in a tier list based on how practical it's been for me over the long run. Now of course this is all just based on my own experience, so take it with a grain of salt, but hopefully it gives you a helpful starting point. Let's start with ND filters. If you're looking to add a more cinematic quality to your videos, getting ND filters should be a top priority. These filters magnetically attach to the Pocket 3's lens and reduce the amount of light entering the camera, which lets you slow down the shutter speed to create that smooth, natural looking motion blur. You can follow the 180-degree shutter rule for video, meaning you set your shutter speed to double your frame rate. I usually record at 30 FPS, so I manually lock my shutter speed at 1/60th of a second to follow the rule. Without an ND filter, the Pocket 3 would be forced to use a much faster shutter speed to avoid overexposing the image, which can make your footage look overly sharp or jittery. ND filters aren't just for regular video either, they're great for time lapses too. If you want that dreamy, flowing motion blur in each frame, these filters can really transform your time-lapse videos. Now, using these filters does take a little extra effort, and they're by no means absolutely essential. But I do genuinely prefer the look I get with them, and they're one of the few accessories I reach for regularly. So for me, ND filters are an easy S-tier accessory. The K&F ND filter pack I bought also came with a CPL filter, which is the next accessory I want to talk about. Circular polarizers work by selectively blocking certain polarized light waves, helping to reduce or even eliminate reflections and glare. This can be helpful in various situations, such as when you want to see through water, cut down reflections on glass, and even deepen the colours of foliage, since leaves themselves naturally reflect a lot of light. CPLs can have a profound impact on footage and clear use cases in specific types of shooting, like automotive or real estate videography, where window glare can be an issue. Despite this, I haven't found myself using them very often. They can be a bit too fiddly and time consuming to work with. There are also other various caveats, like having to keep in mind the angle of the light to get the effect you want, potentially introducing polarization artifacts, and the way they also reduce exposure by about 1 to 2 stops, all of which can complicate filming. So for me, they're going in the C tier. Not bad, but just not ideal for quick run and gun shooting. That said, if you have a more specific use case, I could easily see CPLs ranking much higher on your list. I would guess around a quarter of my Osmo Pocket 3 footage was shot using a tripod of some kind rather than handheld. Whether you're filming time lapses, product unboxing, or any kind of static shot, the tripod is pretty much essential and it doesn't need much of an introduction. Now, as for which tripod you should get, that's a much tougher question. I personally rotate between 3 different tripods depending on the situation, and depending on your needs, you might even prefer a monopod or a flexible tripod instead. It might not be the most exciting accessory, but when it comes to any video camera, a solid tripod is absolutely S tier in my book, and likely will be for you too, unless you shoot everything handheld. If you like to shoot a lot of walking footage with your Osmo Pocket 3, you've probably noticed some noticeable up and down bobbing in your videos. That's because while the Pocket 3's gimbal does a great job stabilizing rotational movements like pan, tilt and roll, it can't correct for translational movements along the Z-axis. Improving your walking technique can help reduce this effect, but keeping your movements smooth for extended periods is physically demanding and takes a lot of practice. That's where a Z-axis stabilizer like this one from StatRC comes in. It helps absorb the vertical bounce from your footsteps, reducing the frequency of oscillations and giving your footage a more floaty, cinematic feel. In theory, it's a great accessory that can help with quality critical shots or short film work. But in practice, I found it adds a bit too much bulk to the Pocket 3, and I just haven't used it since testing it. So for me, this falls into the D tier. That said, I have seen this stabilizer out in the wild here in Japan on 2 occasions, so if you don't mind the extra size and the attention it draws, it might be worth checking out. Next up, the Osmo Pocket 3 expansion adapter. This accessory adds 2 things to your Pocket 3, a cold shoe mount and an action camera style mounting port. I haven't gotten much use out of the cold shoe mount, but the action camera mount alone makes this an essential accessory for me. It lets me attach the Pocket 3 to a neck strap or chest harness, which I rely on whenever I'm filming biking footage. Beyond body mounts, I've also found it handy for increasing mounting flexibility in general. For example, in my comparison video between the Osmo Action 5 Pro and the Pocket 3, using the expansion adapter let me get a much better camera angle than I could have with just the built-in 1/4 inch tripod thread. For how often I use it, I'm putting this in the A tier. It's super useful in my setup, but depending on what you shoot, your mileage may vary. If you're looking to get low angle shots or overhead crane style shots, especially in crowds, an invisible selfie stick like this one with a decent amount of extension is exactly what you need. Once again, the expansion adapter proves its worth here. It helps you mount the Pocket 3 at a more optimal angle than simply screwing it into the tripod thread, and it also feels a whole lot more secure. Beyond the added reach, the accessory comes with 2 nice bonuses. First, for walking videos, putting the Pocket 3 on a slightly extended selfie stick can reduce that up and down bobbing by acting as a lever arm and increasing inertia. Second, thanks to the 1/4 inch thread at the bottom, you can attach tripod legs and turn it into a lightweight monopod. Just keep in mind, it isn't very stable, so the use cases are fairly limited. Overall, I'd rank this a B tier accessory. I don't use it all the time, but for specific shots, it's really handy. And if you film a lot of selfie shots and want to capture a wider background in them, it could easily move up to the A tier for you. We're circling back to lens attachments with this next accessory, the Pocket 3 lens and ND kit from Freewell. It includes a wide-angle lens, a macro lens, an anamorphic lens, and 3 ND filters that can be used on their own or stacked with any of the lenses. I'll admit I was a bit skeptical about this kit at first. It felt a little gimmicky and unnecessary for a camera like the Pocket 3, but to my surprise I've ended up using it quite a bit. The wide-angle lens has been especially useful for biking shots where I want to capture a slightly broader scene. It still isn't wide as a typical action camera, but it gives the Pocket 3 just enough extra field of view to make a difference. Plus, unlike the official DJI wide-angle lens, this one lets you stack ND filters on top, which is a huge advantage if you're aiming for motion blur in fast-moving shots. The anamorphic lens also gives you a wider field of view with a modest 1.1x squeeze ratio. While it's subtle, it does add a more cinematic look to your footage, complete with those signature blue lens flares that anamorphic lenses are known for. Then there's the macro lens, which lets you get extremely close to your subject and capture shots that just aren't possible with the bare Pocket 3. It's not the most practical due to heavy optical distortion and tricky focusing, but it's still a fun tool for creative, unique looking B-roll. Overall, I wouldn't call this kit essential, but I definitely have fun using it, and I appreciate the thoughtful touches like the oversized ND filters designed for stacking. So for me, the Freewell lens kit lands in the B tier. If you want to shoot hands-free POV footage with your Osmo Pocket 3, you'll need some kind of body mount. For me, the neck mount has quickly become my favourite option, mainly because of where it sits and how much more convenient it is to wear compared to something like a chest harness. I find it super useful for stationary POV shots where I need both hands free, or for biking videos. That said, I don't use it much for walking footage since the bobbing can become quite noticeable when it's worn, as you can't compensate at all using your arm, wrist or hand. And if I have a hand free, I usually prefer holding the camera anyway, so I can be more deliberate with my framing and movement. For the Pocket 3, I like this cap lock neck mount from PGY Tech. It has a quick release system that saves you from having to screw and unscrew the Pocket 3 every time, and it also comes with an optional strap which prevents the camera from jumping around. However, do note that it does fit quite snug, and some people have complained that it is too small for them. Since I shoot a lot of POV footage, this one's an easy A tier accessory for me. The last accessory I'll be quickly covering in this video is the DJI Mic 2. I don't use it all that often simply because I rarely shoot talking head or vlog style videos. But if you do, this is an automatic S tier accessory. The integration with the Osmo Pocket 3 is seamless, it just works and the audio quality is excellent. There's also a smaller alternative worth considering, the DJI Mic Mini. It loses out on internal recording and 32-bit float, but in return you get a much more compact design and longer battery life, which could be a better fit depending on your needs. So there you have it, my personal tier list after over a year with the Pocket 3. Hopefully it gave you a better idea of which accessories might be worth your time and which ones you can probably skip. Let me know down in the comments which ones you swear by, or if there's anything great I missed in this video.